Hi, and welcome to the Magnificent Misfits podcast, where we intimately explore the lives of successful misfits, delving beyond their achievements to reveal the human stories behind their triumphs. A misfit is anyone who has taken on a journey different from their peers who come from a similar background and who have dared to walk on an undiscovered path. Their stories and journey will hopefully inspire other misfits to carve their own paths. Join me, Sid, as I meet and interact with these amazing people to discuss their life stories. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Magnificent Misfits. I hope you're enjoying this podcast and getting something out of every episode listening to these amazing guests. I have another very interesting guest today who you'll hear about, and she'll talk about her life and her journey. And I'm also keen to know a lot more about what's happening in her life, her journey until now. So we have Niloufer today, who's our guest. I'll give you a short introduction to Niloufer, and after which we'll have a conversation. So quickly, so Niloufer is a fashion entrepreneur and runs her own fashion studio. It's called Niloufer Nasir Design Studio, which is in Bangalore. She's, of course, made a few unconventional choices in her life and career to reach a point where she decided to turn entrepreneur. And we'll hear about those. We'll talk about those today. One of the key factors or one of the key aspects that is a focus area for her is sustainability. Niloufer, of course, has an undergraduate degree in fashion from Bangalore University and a master's in fashion design from the Army Institute of Fashion Design. Besides her creative endeavors as part of her work, Niloufer is also greatly interested and passionate about sports, painting, creative journaling, and travel. And of course, there's a lot more to her personality, so we'll get to know of that today. Niloufer, welcome and thank you for doing this.
Hi, Siddharth. Thanks for having me. That's a lovely introduction. Thank you for putting it across.
Yeah, that was a short introduction. I know your personality is not just defined by those few lines. So let's kick it off by you telling us a little bit about, who you are, where did you grow up, what was childhood like, how did you get to what you're doing today, your career. So that brief would help us kick it off.
So a little about me is I'm a Bangalorean. I am born and brought up in Bangalore, but there are a lot of cultures at home, definitely. My mom is from Bangalore. Her roots go towards Goa and all of it. My dad's from Tamil Nadu, and likewise, there are a lot of people throughout the country spread across. So our family we have multicultural, and so my childhood was, I would say, pretty interesting, but at the same time, there were a lot of drawbacks which I faced during my childhood, which has led to these choices of mine in career and lifestyle. Being a fashion designer, there were things that I've done, I wouldn't say completely out of the box, but at the same time, there are choices I've made which has brought me to a place where I can stand and say, I'm here, independent, and I can basically handle any situation thrown at me. Again, it connects and roots back to my childhood, the way we were brought up and what we were exposed to. Regarding my work, if I had to say something, it's fun. It is super hectic and it's all new every day. There is a new experience every day. I've been in both sides of working cultures. I've been in an office. I've been in a design house. I have worked under people who have run individual brands, and now I'm running my own brand. So I've kind of tasted the tea from all sides, and it's fun to be here.
Yes. Okay. So we'll of course dive into some more detail on a lot of these things. Before that, I just wanted to understand from you, and I don't come from this industry. And I'm sure many of the listeners would not come from this industry or maybe are curious, right? What does a day at work look like for you when you're running your studio?
I would say there are a lot of choices one person has to go through to make the most simplest of things happen. Like it's easy to say ki fashion is there are trends running around and you just pick up one and you adapt. But to arrive at that, there is a lot of back and forth. I mean, any job would demand for that. But Fashion in particular, we are, I would say, we are caught answerable for many things, which basically
Okay.
might not be even our, scope of work.
Like, for
Like for
example?
example, um, when I was working with my previous companies, anything to do with creative aspect of it, like photo shoots or choice of photo location or the products that we style on the model for a basic catalog, the things that you see on Mintra or the things that you see in your ads or your social media, we were responsible for. But what we also were questioned about, irrespective of what we did, was, did you make sure the design team works, whereas uh, the cloth making comes. One is where you capture what you've done, and
Hmm.
one is you create what you're going to capture, right? So we were questioned about both,
Got
which
it.
was a little difficult to juggle, I must say. I mean, most of the design students will definitely connect to this. The ones who are studying will have zero idea about it, because what we learn in college is basically ground zero of what we are exposed to in a
Hmm.
company. Um, la- Most of them who go for internships and jobs, they think that, people who have watched fashion movies, I'm not sure if you're aware of the movie The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes, yes,
Ah,
absolutely.
perfect. That kind of captures it in a gist. So there are times when we are asked to grab coffee, there are times we are asked to clean people's desks,
Wow.
and I must say, that pretty much builds your character. No hate or anything towards anybody, but I see comparatively there are more Gen Zs who do not adapt to this lifestyle, and you would see the rising number of homegrown brands. You see a
Hmm.
lot of people coming up with their own brands and trying to do their own thing, which I'm completely happy about. But at the same time, it's the tolerance level that people have.
Got it.
We, as students or freshers or newbies, went through more of it compared
Hmm.
to what we actually were told we will go. Because the idea of being in the fashion industry was dress up, go look nice, and probably draw some sketches and it gets approved. But no,
Hmm.
that's just how they put it across. It's nothing so rosy,
Got
but
it.
it's
Okay.
it's fun. It's definitely
Got it.
fun.
So actually, that's a very interesting segue into one of the things I wanted to ask you about is a 101 on the fashion industry, right? If you could help me, and I'm sure many of the listeners listening to this, if you could give us an idea of what the industry is like, what the landscape is like. So from two points of view. So one is, what does the industry comprise in terms of, let's say, the companies, brands, designers, who are these, and how, where do these people stack up? On the other hand, also from the point of view of fresh graduates, right? When you come out, what are the things you can do? Who can you go and work for? Can you, like, straight out of college go and start your own studio? And we'll of course come to your own journey, but what are some of those options available? And so, in terms of, let's say, what's happening at a company, industry level, and also from a fresh graduate's point of view.
Anyone who's, I'll just separate it into two different segments. One
Sure.
is people who would like to start up with their own brand. What are the perks of it and disadvantages? And people who would choose to join companies and then gain an experience. I would suggest people, once they finish their college studies and all of it, should join a company. So they
Hmm.
will definitely know how the industry works, apart from just plunging into your own brand. I mean, it can work. It can definitely work. You put your heart and soul into it, it can work. It's just that it's much better if you go into a company, because you get to study a lot more than what you've been exposed to in a college. College covers maybe 3%. The 97% of it you learn only when you expose yourself in a company or a design house. Fashion in particular, I mean, this is the profession that I know in and out of it. I wouldn't say completely, but I have a fair idea of it. Fashion in particular, there are people who know how to sew, there are people who know how to design, but fashion does not require just that. You need tolerance level, you need a lot of patience.
Okay.
In being in a company that's going to teach you that, and juggling with people. When you're in college, it's very easy to get along with people and say, this is what I've drawn and this is what I'm making. As simple as that.
Hmm.
I do not need anyone's approval on it. But in design, you do not just take the approval of your boss, you take the approval of your subordinates, your colleagues, people just wandering about in the design studio. To be very honest,
Okay.
everyone has an opinion. So you kind of have to make
Okay.
them happy, and then comes in the trends. They do their magic. They
Hmm.
it's like they want the people in the company want something new, but at the same time they are not okay with the design that you give them. It might be completely out of the box, might be completely unconventional, but they want something new, but at the same time they do not want you to kind of uh, go outside the lines that they have drawn for you, which is very, very difficult. Because if someone has drawn a box for you already and tell you
Hmm.
to not go out of this and expect you to go out of this, you're basically playing with someone's mental health, I would tell. So um, that's a very big challenge. So that's why I would suggest people to go work in a company and know what it exactly is, because
Got it.
opening a brand is a completely different thing, but getting to know what you're going to do is very important. And I would definitely recommend people to go join a company or any firm that is going to teach you this patience and dedication very much,
Got it.
and hard work, of course. Designers in general, any designer would connect to this. We have our laptops come home with us, our work, so there's no basically no work life balance. So after a period of time, yes, but if you're a fresher, you have to struggle. You very much have to struggle day in, day out. So we work for basically 9 hours during our internship, or even as a fresher in a job, and then we are back home with our laptops. We are glued to the laptops again. We're trying to finish work. We're trying to finish our you can call it targets, but at the same time, you are having fun while making the design, but it very much feels very pressuring having that much amount of work to completely finish it in that short period of time. Like Mintra comes up with a campaign, we are forced to think.
Hmm.
And design is not something like that. You need your time, you need your space, you need inspiration, you need to communicate. But
So I just want to understand that a little better, Nilofer. So let's say, for example, there is a fresh graduate who's come out of college. Okay, so and there are two options at this point. So option one is go and work for like a Mintra or any big brand, right? Let's say an Alan Solly or something like that. And pardon some of the examples I'm taking. Maybe there are better examples, but that's one category. Second, let's say somebody approaches you and says that, hey, I want to assist you in the work you're doing. How are these two? Are these two sort of broadly the categories you were referring to, and how are these two different?
they're completely different, because when it's a small run company, there are multiple things you can take a call for it, and you are held responsible, of course. But no one is bombarding you, saying कि ये गलत है. You're completely doomed, and no one is
Hmm.
making you guilty day in day out. It's done, and we move on. Smaller brands realize and they move on. They learn and they adapt and they improvise.
Got it.
Bigger brands are as open as they tell they are not. If I'm being very blunt, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. The
Got
bigger
it.
the brand, the more difficult it is to
So
work.
they have fixed patterns and designs and
Absolutely.
brand identities that they
There
have to
are
stick to.
lines that you have to abide by.
Got
You,
it.
there is no space for your creativity.
Got
Um,
it.
it's like a pre-made. It's like a template already that exists. So you just need to
Got it.
comply. But at the same time, you cannot say that you've complied with the lines. You have to say it's different. So it's
Got it.
all about how you play along.
Got it. But you still advise somebody to work at a place like that just to understand how the dynamics of the industry.
Absolutely.
Got
Because
it.
um, the more you expose yourself to the worst situations possible, it's you kind of value the easiest of situations, and the
Got it.
better you work.
Got it. Okay, excellent. Now, as you know, our podcast is called Magnificent Misfits. We have an idea of why you're magnificent, and maybe to the listeners, I'll also kind of share your Instagram page link on the podcast notes and check out some of your work, and that will give them more of a sense of your work and what kind of work you do, what you think about. But the misfits part is what is more interesting for me, and to understand, where you come from and to understand you as a person. My first question is, why do you think you are a misfit, or what makes you a misfit?
I'm going to put this right back when it started. I am from a multicultural background.
Hmm.
I'm Muslim, but at the same time, we have my grandma was Christian, my mom was a proper Christian. I have relatives who are Hindus, Parsis, and all kinds of culture. I have foreigners who have been married into our family. One of my aunts are French, and few of my roots run back to Uzbekistan. I'm not sure if you've heard of
Oh,
it.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So that place, I mean, few far related. So we are kind of lot of cultures at home. And mom and dad, being from a middle class family again, mom and dad have always been working, and it was lucky of us to see them during the weekends. Sometimes not, sometimes yes.
Hmm.
So being in a being in a family like this, we multicultural and all of it. There were notions when you again as much as open minded as you are, there are notions saying no, we are Muslims and we cannot get along with Christians. You might have 100 friends, but at the same time, when someone is married into the family from a different cultural background or a religion, it's always a no. They're not welcome
Hmm.
inside the house. And we did face a lot of issues, and few families who are also married. And to be very crisp about it, almost every other marriage was a love marriage in our family, but still
Hmm.
it was considered blasphemy, which is very funny. So when it's very contradictory at the same time, because you all tell ki your daughter got married to a different person from a different cultural background, but uh, my daughter cannot get married to that. You do not encourage the idea of it, which is very contradictory, and it's hard to make people understand, right? So, having said that, I had very less family time. Barely, I would say I grew up without any cousins. It was just my sister and me all along until maybe 5, 6 years ago. We kind of started opening up and meeting family and everybody. So that isolation, growing up in isolation, we had to keep ourselves busy with things. It was a little difficult to communicate with people of my age because I did not grow up with anybody at home of my age. It was just my sister and me. It started and ended right there. The next people we communicated the most with were my parents, and they did their best to put things together. And uh, we never had something called family get-togethers much. It was very, 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 very less. So it was just dad, mom, my sister, and me. 99% of the time. And the same thing passed on in school, same thing passed on in college. It was very difficult for me to actually sustain a friendship. It was very difficult for me to actually sustain a relationship. The first thing I do is, if I feel that I need to save a friendship or let a relationship endure for longer, I had to help. So that's where my thought process started working. I thought maybe if I help them, they will stay with me for longer. If I assist them, they will stay with me. So that was the kind of that's how my thinking was bent. And with due respect, my parents tried their best, but at the same time, they're juggling lives, right? They cannot sit and get down to my level to all the time and tell ki nahi bacha, you'll have to go, and it's okay sometimes if nobody talks to you. So there was no place where I could accept that I can let somebody go. So that's how I always felt out of place. And when you're having usual conversations as kids in school, we had some, I'm not sure if you've faced it, but there were these unnecessary times where kids discuss about families. My parents did this, my parents did that. We went out with cousins, and the regular talk. So I
Hmm.
could not connect, and for me it was always left out of place. And anybody talking about Ramzan, I could not connect completely because there are family get-togethers.
Hmm.
Anyone talking about Christmas, again, I could not connect completely. So I was half and half in every place. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to make myself feel that I'm also one among you. But somehow, maybe um, in a different manner, it showed out. Ki nahi, you're not sure. And I always was left out of conversations. And that's the reason I barely have many friends. I would say after starting my business, I can have more friends because my conversation limits to clients. It's just the
Hmm.
clientele that I need to maintain. So that's where it all started. And I think I've grown up with it and I've made peace with it now. Yeah, that's the beginning.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to digest and take in, frankly. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I mean, I'm trying to think, right? So, you mentioned some of these experiences you had, and maybe you didn't have support, or you were not able to build those bonds. I'm thinking, did that even determine the choice for you to gravitate towards something like fashion? Did it help you express yourself more? Is that one of the reasons? Was that a determining factor? I'm just thinking out aloud.
Very much. I would say it is highly influenced what I've become in life and what I will become in life because it's
Hmm.
definitely played a very big role in my life. For me, I love to keep myself busy, and people of my age, I've always told this to my parents too, and they've always told me, "Ki go out, jab ho gaya, ho gaya." That time we couldn't let you all go outside because it was just the two of us, and we did not have any relatives support or any very good friends or anything. The only friends that we used to talk was moms and dad's colleagues from office who were super super elder to us. So it
Hmm.
was just that part of conversation. And even if we are holding a conversation as ki, how did you study? How was sports day? And we will be asking them, how was your day at work? So,
Hmm.
which is a little grown up for our age. But at the same time, me as a person, like I said, I like to keep myself busy. I started getting into all kinds of hobbies. It can be art or it can be dance. By the way, all that comes from my dad and mom. They are super creative too. My dad's lovely singer. He's a state level football player, and yeah, he does a lot. And so does my mom. So we were taught to be efficient from small. We stopped our maids, I guess, from grade 7.
Hmm.
So my sister and me used to kind of juggle um, chores at home. She used to take care of the cleaning, I used to take care of the cooking, and parents coming. So it was just four adults living together. There were no two kids. So my sister and me brought each other up, and of course, dad and mom were handling all the chaos at home. And so having these habits, I had to keep myself occupied, and I started um, leaning towards habits that did not require too much of communication, which is why fashion or any creative field. I was okay with even art. I paint too. So yes, fashion does not require two people or three people. You can do it single-handedly too. Yeah, once you grow, that's a different aspect of it. But the beginning of it is you do not really need anybody. There are people who are handling businesses out there all by themselves. And I said, see, this is perfect. So initially, again, like I said, why I work jobs is that time I was clueless. I'm going to work a job, I'm going to have experience and open my brand. I had zero idea of opening my brand. My dad kept on telling me because I'm sure he knows me much better and he suggested me for the person that I am, I opened my brand up. I always had issues at work. I did my work very neatly and efficiently and very much in time because I was also a topper and my projects, same thing, were on time, very neatly done and one of the best work you can see within my batch. And just like that, even with my work, it passed on same behavior at work. But I still had issues with people. I still had issues with my colleague. I always the whole emotion of trying to retain people in my life. I always barged in with my colleague and said, "Ki, why don't I help you with this?" Whereas she would require zero help. So for
Hmm.
me, it was no, no, let me help you or let me do this for you, and maybe our But someone noticed and said ki she's getting work done, and that's taken in a different manner. So that's how it was very difficult for me to juggle with people. Same thing with my bosses. I'll finish my work, and they kind of felt a little accused, because there were times I'm a person who's out and loud. I just say it. If it's there, I just say it. So there were times I finished my work and I asked, I sent this to you, why didn't you do it? Whereas
Hmm.
people do not usually do that. So I said, I finished and I sent it and you've not approved it. It's been a week. So immediately, issues. So my dad said, you are a person like this. You are out and loud. You stand up right. And at the same time, you can't expect people to stick to you. So why don't you do your business? So after 1 year of contemplating, of course, the business pretty much works much better for me. Yeah, and I've come to understanding that people will like you anyways. You just have to be yourself. You cannot really please people. It doesn't work.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So, while you were speaking, I mean, I was thinking at least two questions came to my mind. Okay, so the first one is when you were going through that phase of working for others, things not working out, did you doubt yourself? Did you feel like this is not for me? What's happening? How did you rise above that self-doubt? So that is the first question. The second is when you were starting out, what were some of your challenges when you decided, once you made the decision that, I want to now launch my own label, start my own studio? What were some of the initial challenges? Maybe both internal and external, right?
Feeling like I'm left out of place was definitely there when I was working for a job. Similar to what I told you earlier, it was always a sense of doubt, because no matter how much I did, no matter how much I put in, uh, working hours or trying to please people, it was always not working out for me. It was always the opposite of it. The work was done, but nobody was happy. The targets were met, but nobody was happy. Business was happening for the company, nobody is happy. I said, what else do you want? Because you start questioning your self worth at a certain point of time, and you start doubting yourself. Am I the problem? So you start asking people who you really trust, this is what I'm doing. Do you think I'm doing right? So everybody keeps saying, yes, you were right. And I think you need to stand up for yourself. So you're kind of juggling between um, thoughts. Like there are people who are telling this is right, but at the same time, you do not see people who are okay with it. So what's the scene all about? So yes, I guess I struggled with my job for like 4 years, 4.5 years, and I decided ki since I've already put in 4.5 years and this is what I'm getting, so why not start my brand? Why not go with this for once? And that's how the brand started, with a lot of contemplation and self doubt. One thing I was very particular about was I did not want my parents to help me out with it. You are there, of course, you are there, and we are much stable now. And they also were working, they were team leads in different MNCs, and they also gave up their job and they did their own business. They are doing business now, they are uh, property consultants, well established people, and they gave me their examples, and we became friends as we grew up. Parents kind of maybe we grew up or they stepped down a bit, but we kind of started discussing life than just work. So that helped a lot, helped a lot. And they gave their example. See, this is what we're doing, and we're doing business now. It works better for people like us because we have a voice, and we are not people, with due respect, there are people who are working for jobs and that works out better for them, and I'm happy for them. But there are also people like me who it does not work for, no matter what you do. So, and it's completely all right, because that is not made for you. There are things that are made for you, and you will definitely figure it out one day. So the starting the business was, I had to, one, save up money, which is a very very important aspect,
Hmm.
uh, and I had to do a lot of study. It wasn't something that I decided, I just closed my eyes and I quit my job. No, I definitely did a lot of study, went through for like 6 months. As I was working, I had to juggle with things that I had to save up for my brand, which is research, vendors that we find, because a lot of people think you start a business, you go to a factory, you give your products and it sells. No, that's not something, that's not a part of it. The other part of it is your mental part of it, peace of mind. You think that how is it going to work? Are people going to like my designs? Will people accept the things that I'm going to bring out?
Yeah.
Will people approve of it? Because that's one thing that I guess almost every person faces. Will they
Yeah.
approve? Even if it's someone that they do not know, approval is something that we all lack. We feel we need constant approval, and it kind of feels right when somebody approves. But the although I'm still coming to understanding with it,
Yeah.
I would say that we do not need everyone's approval, and see that it is not harming anybody in any way. It works. It perfectly works. It just works fine. So that's there. And I'm sorry, you asked me something else.
No, I think you
I
kind of answered
missed.
the question. I was asking you about what were some of the challenges you faced when you were starting out. So you've answered that question. You've kind of touched
Right.
upon the challenges you faced, external and internal. So yeah,
And
that's
there
good
was one
enough.
more challenge. What people call you.
Hmm.
I've had enough of it. Because being from a Muslim background, the first thing, like relatives don't turn out from any way, they don't turn up for anything. But when you're starting a business or you're getting married or you're doing something good in life, that's the minute relatives comment. And I wouldn't just bring this particularly in just the Muslim aspect of it. I guess anywhere it works out for anybody,
Yeah.
because I've had friends who have faced the similar issue. The As soon as you're doing fashion designing, they ask ki, "Acha, you will alter my clothes." I said,
Hmm.
"There's something beyond it. There's so much more beyond it." So they say, "Acha, so you don't do alteration. What do you do? Ramp walk?" It's there. There are only two mentalities. If you're doing
Hmm.
design, it's always wearing chota chota kapda and walking on the ramp, or doing alteration. You have a boutique and they take up orders and make blouses. So it was super difficult. It is still to make people understand that there is a world beyond this. There is textile, there is innovation, there is life, there is so much more. You Because one choice in fashion can lead to so many disasters, or it can lead to a lot of things that actually help the society.
Yeah.
And uh, we think it is some small aspect ki theek hai, don't waste fabric, and but it goes much deeper and beyond it. So I
Hmm.
would say ki it's hard to make people understand, so it is better to make peace with it and you continue your journey, because people's opinion doesn't really matter. It's the
Yeah.
one who are actually standing by you, and you, it's just that period.
Excellent. Okay. Pearls of wisdom. I'm sure that people, a lot of people listening to this are going to benefit from it. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Niloufer. Yeah. Okay. Now this is a good segue into the next segment I have. Okay, so it's called shorts. Now these are questions I have for you. These would have a yes or no, agree, disagree kind of a component to it. So you have
Mhm.
to pick one and you have to give a brief one-line description as to why you chose that option. Okay. So let's go. I'll start with the first one.
Awesome.
Making a career in the fashion industry as an entrepreneur requires a lot of patience and gumption. Agree or disagree?
Absolutely agree.
Okay.
Because um, you do not just design clothes, you deal with people, you deal with comments that people have on your clothes, opinions, and you deal with the work apart from that, the pressure of trying to catch up.
Okay. Excellent. And by extension, I'd say it's probably not for everyone. So you need to really think it through
Very much,
if you
very
can
much.
go through that. Okay.
You need a lot of patience. Patience is something that I'm going to highlight.
Okay. All right. The next one. It helps to come from a relatively wealthy background when you start off as a fashion entrepreneur because getting funding otherwise is tough. Agree or disagree?
I would agree, because creating is one thing, but putting it out in the world is another thing.
Hmm.
Um, I can create, but the world needs to see, and world does not believe a thought process. Not at least half of them. They do not
Hmm.
believe in the idea. They believe in results. They believe in something more practically available.
Hmm.
So yes, very much. And you do not have to be um, wealthy, but at least you need to have enough to support your idea.
Got it. Okay. That's good to know. Then the next one. Okay. your success has still not changed the fact that you might still be perceived as an outlier or a misfit by others around you. Agree or disagree?
Absolutely agree. And I'm comfortable with it now
Okay.
because it just works for me and I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Your life is going to be defined by unconventional choices that you're yet to make. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree.
That's
So,
what
which means you're going to be making many more unconventional
many,
choices
many
in life.
more, many more. Is that that's a part of me and I'm proud of it.
Excellent. By the way, before I go on to the next shot, I had a question I wanted to ask you earlier, which
Mhm.
is building a brand, right? What is your take on, or how do you handle the social media part of it? How challenging is that in today's times, and what do you do? Do you have some tips or advice on that?
It is, I would say, again, it's person to person. It can be considered as a challenge, but at the same time, if you have the willpower to ignore all the things that are coming up, day in, day out, you have reels to catch up with, trends to catch up with. But at the same time, you're a person who does not take all that to your head. You have your own style to follow. It's all good. But if you're a person who's super anxious, then it gets super tricky and very difficult because you always want to catch up. And as a single person, it is super hard to do everything. You either
Hmm.
need time or you need help. You cannot do it on your own in time.
Would
You
you say
need
you're good at it, or you take somebody's help, or you keep
um,
learning, you learn and then apply? How would you rate yourself when it comes to the social media game?
I'm learning. I'm learning. To be very
Okay.
honest, I'm learning because if I had help, I would definitely do better. But uh, because it's one person running a whole brand, I've got to design, I've got to procure materials, I've got to do my research, sketch, tech packs, visit the factory, custom orders too because I do both, and then comes social media. And another very difficult part is asking clients to send pictures. So I'm just going to put
Hmm.
this out loud. Whoever listens, I hope you're one of my clients and sends me pictures. So yeah,
Okay,
that's
excellent.
yes,
Okay, back to the shots, okay? You have moments of anxiety, worry, disappointment that you think most people will not understand. Agree or disagree?
agree. Because it looks completely different from another point of view, of course. I would never know what you're going through until unless I'm in your shoes. So same applies here.
Okay, all right. I have a couple of quirky short questions to ask you, okay? So the
Hmm?
first one is that creative people often have difficult life circumstances that really fuel them. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I agree because we designers, at least, we juggle with a lot of personalities. I can tell you, we have to sometimes be the person who listens. We have to be the person who approves. We have to be the person who does stuff. So there are many things that we juggle with, and as fun as it seems, that hectic it is. So yes,
Okay. Okay. All right. And another one, which is, and I saw that you kind of work with a couple of brands in the UK, so you would have kind of worked with clients abroad as well. Indian clients are a lot more demanding than clients abroad. Agree or disagree?
I wouldn't agree. I guess clients are clients. I'm just going to generalize them.
Okay.
Because uh, abroad clients think that ki, theek hai, you get them paid this much and it's going to be done. And Indian clients also have, I wouldn't differentiate that because I guess ultimately it's all about the whole crowd that you're talking about. Clients have the same client behavior irrespective of where you are, and we designers are always angry about the number of changes we have to do.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. All right. So now I think I want to ask you, can you tell me a film and a book,
Mm-hmm.
movie, it can also be a series, that inspired you in your times of low?
It's going to sound very cliche, but I love Friends, and
Okay.
that basically gives me, I wouldn't say a solution to everything, but it kind of eases off. It kind of feels very personal. Like I feel that I'm sitting with a group of friends and actually forgetting all the chaos around me for a minute. So that
Hmm.
helps. And I do watch a lot of movies, but I guess there are few movies that stick with me throughout my career and personal life. Is I've told you earlier too. It's Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah,
It's
you did.
that I learned a lot with. Again, it might sound very cliche being a design student, liking the movie, but just if you kind of ignore the fact that it's something more fashion driven, it's the whole thought of working in a big firm and trying to catch up. And then what
Hmm.
happens and how you kind of find your own journey. So, which is
Got it.
very important. Yes.
Okay. Last one. Okay. This is a designer who inspires you, whose work inspires you.
Sabyasachi
Okay.
is amazing. Um, because I kind of find myself connected to culture a lot. You would see that even in my design language. Even if I'm making something very simple, I love to draw a story around it. It might be something as simple as a white shirt. I love to weave a story around it. That's what I find. I mean, I connect myself to Sabyasachi. There are lovely designers, of course. We have one of the famous designers who also exhibited his designs in Met Gala, Falguni Shane Peacock. He
Okay.
happens to be one of my neighbor's relatives. So there are many places where I've connected with designers. But yeah, I would go with Sabyasachi. And the second designer I resonate to in terms of personality is Masaba Gupta.
Okay.
She's she's amazing. She also gets a little cringe when she's around a lot of people. So yes, but
Okay.
yeah, she seems like one of. I mean, she is one of my role models too. First comes Sabyasachi, irrespective of what, because that person has culture in his veins, and it. I sometimes cry seeing his collection because it's that beautiful, that intricate. So maybe if you go around my page on Instagram, almost at the end you will find a couple of designs that I've made, which are super intricate and which I've done basically uh, all was done by hand. I stitched it by myself, and of course, I had my dad who helped me around it. And there was a story woven to it. Apart from just being a collection, it is an emotion, I would say. So
Okay.
yes,
Excellent. So those are the things I wanted to ask you today. It's been a lovely chat, I must say, Niloufer. I think thanks for sharing all the stuff you did. You really did kind of come across as a real person sharing real experiences. So thanks for that. And I'm sure many people listening to this conversation, not irrespective of whether they want to get into fashion, become a fashion entrepreneur or not, are really going to enjoy listening to some of your stories and experiences. So thanks so much. Thanks for sharing all that you did.
most welcome. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So that was today's episode. Before I wrap up, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, I'd like to ask for your help in spreading the word about the podcast. If you think there's someone in your life who might enjoy listening to the Magnificent Misfits podcast, please consider sharing it with them. Also, if you're active on social media, we'd love for you to give us a shout out and tag us at MN Podcast Show. That's MN Podcast Show. Thank you and see you soon.